Good evening, everybody. It is February 22nd, year 2022. I am in chambers with Municipal Coordinator Duarte, CAO De Jong, Councillor Abbott, and we have one member of the gallery. This is a formal proceeding. I will read a fairly lengthy preamble statement so that all participants here tonight understand the rules, requirements, and what this meeting is and what it is not. The statement will be included in the minutes. The public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act in order to consider Village of Lions Bay Official Community Plan Designation Bylaw number 408, 2008, Amendment Bylaw number 612, 2022. Council for the Village of Lions Bay has given first and second readings to this bylaw and directed that this public hearing be held. The public hearing for the Village of Lions Bay Official Community Plan Designation Bylaw number 408, 2008, Amendment Bylaw number 612, 2022 was advertised in the February 9th and 16th editions of the North Shore News. The CAO will present a summary of the proposed bylaw and staff will read out or summarize written submissions received during the notice period. I will then call on the municipal coordinator to read out the names on the speakers list, if any. The floor will then be open to anyone in attendance that wishes to present his or her views on the proposed bylaw. I stress to all of you that this is a public hearing. It is an opportunity for anyone who has a view on the proposed bylaw to make that view known to council members who are here with an open mind and are here to listen to your input. The public hearing is not a question and answer period, and it is not an opportunity to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with either council members, staff, or those in the audience who may be opposed to your particular view. Council is here to listen to comments regarding the bylaw. I ask you, raise your hand if you wish to speak, but remain muted until it is your turn to speak. Speak clearly so everyone can hear you and state your name and address. Your name will be recorded and become part of the public record, which means recorded in the minutes, which will be posted in the municipality's website. Please restrict your comments to the issues related specifically to the proposed bylaw. Please be brief and concise as possible. We ask speakers to respect a 5-minute time limit in order that everyone who wishes to speak is able to do so. Everyone will be given the opportunity to speak once before anyone speaks a second time. Speakers are permitted to speak more than once only if they are providing new or additional information. I ask that the audience be respectful of each speaker and allow the speaker to make his or her point without interruption. Regardless of whether you favor or oppose any particular statement, we ask that you refrain from clapping, cheering, or booing so that all speakers will feel comfortable making their views known. As chair of this hearing, I reserve the right to conclude any presentation that does not relate to the bylaw, becomes abusive, or becomes repetitive of views that the speaker has already made known to council members. Please note, if you wish to provide a written submission to be included in the record of the meeting, you must submit that document to the staff prior to the close of this public hearing. Persons attending online can email at office@lionsbay.ca. Please also note, council may not receive any additional information, written or verbal, after the close of the public hearing. I will now ask the CAO to introduce Village of Lions Bay Official Community Plan Designation Bylaw number 408, 2008, Amendment Bylaw number 612, 2022. CAO?
Sorry, Ron.
Yep.
Can we confirm that Jamie's online? I don't.
Yeah, she's there.
She is? Okay, thank you.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just a brief background for those who may not be fully aware or apprised. Last fall, the community was asked to respond to a survey in the village update, and the results of that question that was asked, essentially, are we general, urban, or rural? How do Lions Bayers view themselves? showed that approximately 91% of over 500 respondents identified the village of Lions Bay as a rural community rather than an urban one, which led to council's pursuance of changing the land use designation in the Metro Vancouver Regional Growth Strategy from general urban to rural. And as a result, which of that will, if accepted, will move the village from the urban containment boundary in the regional growth strategy. A report was presented to council at the strategic planning and priorities meeting in November-December timeframe, and subsequent discussions at the council table considered the alternatives, including delaying a redesignation request until after a planned upcoming OCP review to be commenced by the next council, but confirmed the desire of the community to move promptly in the direction requested by the residents to seek an amendment of the current RGS Metro 2040. So a resolution was passed at the December 14th council meeting that staff be directed to proceed with regional context statement amendment requests. That was worked on between staff and council from that time frame through to the January 18th council meeting. Staff also directed that the draft official community plan amendment bylaw be brought reflecting changes to the regional context statement as recommended by council, and that upon completion of the public hearing process, subsequent reading of the OCP amendment and changes to the regional context statement to, if passed or if approved to third reading, then to notify Metro Vancouver that the village would be requests that its land use designation be amended from general urban to rural to reflect the will of the community based on the public consultation in the fall of 2021. It has been noted that the response of the community indicates a strong desire to promptly amend the OCP and RCS, the RCS being the regional context statement that's attached to the OCP, to support a rural land use designation under the regional growth strategy and better reflect the distinct character of the village as a rural community rather than an urban one. The pending OCP process is expected to further define that rural character and what further housing and employment options might look like. It'll flesh out the vision for a more complete community in the context of rural development, consistent with how residents see the village now and into the future. So the bylaw itself, number 612, does a couple of things. The first thing it does is, because there is no term within the regional growth strategy coinciding with semi-rural, we have the term semi-rural appearing twice in section 9.1 of the OCP. So the amendment here is simply cleaning that up and changing that semi-rural to rural. You only have basically general urban or rural, or some of the other land use designations that aren't necessarily applicable. So that change is just where it appears in 9.1 and inserting rural, and then deleting the current regional context statement at section 6.0 and replacing it with the regional context statement attached to this bylaw as Schedule A. I will say that it's been noted that Schedule A ought really to end with the regional context statement map, map number 1 on page 8 of Schedule A. There are some additional pages that are blank, and there's a page that has the OCP mapping designations, which aren't pertinent to this amendment of the regional context statement. So I make that note for council's consideration when this comes back for third reading. Other than that, the amendments to the regional context statement are set out as attached in Schedule A. At the February 1st council meeting, there was also a version of Schedule A or the regional context statement showing the tracked changes to arrive at what is being proposed as the new regional context statement. So those track changes were attached to the February 1st council meeting report as well, and shows what has been changed and how. I'm not going to go through those changes. I'm sure that many of you will allude to some of them and have your own comments. So I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, CAO DeJohn. The next part of the meeting is I'm going to ask the municipal coordinator to read or summarize any written submissions that we've received. And for the municipal coordinator, if you could advise how many we've received, and I think a summarization would be fine if they're all very similar.
So we received 13 written submissions after the publication of the notice of public hearing. And prior to when the issue was being discussed, there was some correspondence received. And then of course the signed petition by the residents. And that is on the website. It's people would like to read the correspondence. It's just on the homepage there.
Thank you very much. Again, back to the municipal coordinator. I'd ask that you call the first person on the list to present their comments.
So I would suggest starting with the gallery present.
Here we go. And name, rank, serial number.
Good evening, council and people in the gallery. I'm Ruth Simons, 50 Lions Bay Avenue. So I have sent my comments in and I'm just going to summarize them. But thanks for this. Appreciate this opportunity for the public hearing this evening. I'm glad also that the Appendix A or the Schedule A has been clarified. I was a bit worried when I saw a blank climate action page there, so that's good. That's clarified. So I'd like to start off by saying that I am not opposed to the change of designation from urban to rural. I think that actually learning more about the definition of the rural, it seems definitely seems more aligned with the realities of our village. But I was really motivated and feeling impacted by this, the change to the regional context statement, which is why I felt compelled to need to come and provide my comments and come here tonight. So these are really more detailed concerns, but there's actually concerns around the wording, but it's what's really kind of been bothering me is that I feel like the change from urban to rural is setting expectations of people higher than I believe they might or should be. And I just wanted to express that the change from urban to rural, I've always believed, and I've lived here for 32 years, that Lions Bay was in control of its own character, that Lions Bay is under the community charter, we are in control of the land use. So I wanted to just say that I feel like some of the wording that's changed is also furthering a bit of maybe, I wouldn't say false expectations, but I think it just needs to be a little clearer, because I'm concerned that villagers see this as a move to protect Lions Bay. And I think from time to time over years, we've had that expressed that people would like to see a gated community, and that's never been met very well. So I just want to say that that's not a vision that I would have for the village, to try and limit our growth or population growth from perhaps unwanted or whatever the issues are around demographics. I was really pleased to know that Lions Bay supports Metro's 2040 vision of achieving the highest quality of life embracing cultural vitality, economic prosperity, social justice, and compassion, all nurtured in and by a beautiful and healthy natural environment. I think we're also, as we know, very fortunate to live in a community contained within boundaries of the UNESCO Biosphere region. And our 2009 OCP statement, is something to be proud of, that Lions Bay strives to become a leader among municipalities in creating a sustainable community for future generations. So these are statements that I think of when I think of the village and how the regional contact statement, how are we aligning our OCP and the wishes of Lions Bay to these statements. And I feel like as population increases both across the regions, and I'm talking about the Howe Sound region as well as Metro Vancouver, and the impacts of climate change, biodiversity loss become even more challenging. But I'm concerned Lions Bay may be moving away in a direction, maybe this is just all imagined, direction of isolation and rejection of the resources of Metro Vancouver or neighboring communities, when actually I see communities really needing to come together to support each other more than ever in the future. So, so there's a couple of things that are notes. In strategy 1.3 of the regional context statement, this wording has been added. By providing for a rural land use designation, Lions Bay will be in a strong position to ensure any future development is at a level consistent with its own vision and its unique rural character. Because we're staying within Metro region and we continue to have legal authority over our municipality, it hasn't changed. I don't understand the intention of the wording. And because, again, nothing really has changed over our ability to have always been able to define our own unique character. In all the time that I've been here, I don't recall there being issues with Metro Vancouver sort of imposing itself on Lions Bay until the issue of the wood burning appliances came up. And I actually was supportive of the fact that we would be moving towards a clean air and lower emissions appliances in the future. Then the next one was about industrial land. I just have referenced in my letter that actually in the land use map that's part of our OCP, that the Brunswick pit area is still designated as gravel extraction, but I see in the new 2017 bylaw land use plan there that it's actually designated RU2, I think it is. So it's, which is resource extraction or natural resource use. So I just wanted to, I think it should be reflected in the context statement that we do actually have lands within our boundaries that can and have in the past been used for industrial use. But now I understand that there may be more interest by the province or Modi that owns it to ensure that it's recreational and conservation lands, which I would greatly support. The other statement that I really have a problem with is the statement that starts off, and I think it's carried over from 2009, and I think it should be, feel like it should be updated to reflect current status. And that starts off with, since Lions Bay is not supplied with natural gas, I think it should be updated to reflect that many homes in Lions Bay heat furnaces with electricity and heat pumps today. There's many that do, and a growing number are generating electricity using solar. And also adding to that list of fuels that produce GHGs that should be included in that list. Another statement that I have trouble with is that the statement that climate change impacts are hard to quantify, but Lions Bay is aware of risks of sea level rise, more intense flooding, etc. This to me is kind of hinting at skepticism about the impacts of climate change. And it implies that Lions Bay is not predicting future costs of property damage, mitigation, or adaptation because it's too hard. Many communities around us are acting on climate mitigation and resiliency and have estimated the cost of doing nothing. Plus, we've had our own examples right here in Lions Bay with the Lions Bay Marina and losing several boats and the wildfires that have taken place on the other side of our village. So to me, it would be more appropriate to say that the climate change impacts have not yet been quantified. The next, deleting reference to 2016, which was to be the last OCP update is fair, but referencing future OCP update to say that in this particular statement, the next OCP will work towards policies that address the management of riparian and intertidal ravines, steep slopes, and other hazards. From what I understand, work already got well underway on those policies to address those important environmental issues. And that was in response to 2009 OCP section 4.5 about hazard lands. So again, I think that it would make more sense to say work will continue rather than it will be getting underway, or will be getting underway to implement policies. And the last one I think I had was, about reference to goal 4, develop complete communities. The statement in the currently the way it's worded, it says that if there's a reference to a draft land use strategy that explored a variety of additional housing forms and locations that was not well received by residents. I don't know why it wouldn't say what document that was, because for the reader, we have no idea. And so I would suggest that be either referencing the exact document and the date, or even better, the professional report that was provided last November, 16th, actually gave a number of homes, provides a guideline for the number of homes and types of housing for Lions Bay. And since that seems to be a pretty serious document that's going to be filed with the government, I think some of the findings of that report should be referenced as context. And I really think that it's time that we had a public meeting to really talk about this very question of what is substantial growth. And there are a lot of people from what I read and hear that really want no growth, and that's not my understanding ever being the intention of councils. Pretty loud and clear, even in the statement, that the tax base wants to be increased, and we know where the lands are that could potentially be developed. So again, this statement is kind of alluding to or people are being led to believe there's a removal of any reference to increasing the number of houses or the types of housing. And I think that's not, it's easier just to arrive at what is the number intended. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth Simons. I think Karen Jeffries, you have your hand up. You can put it down and unmute. You have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I just wanted to go on record that I am in support of changing the RCS to reflect the rural designation. And for my own personal experience and also desire, I think that's a really strong position to put the village in because of the types of development that we desire to have: a new community hall, a park, a beach park with better washrooms, perhaps an entertainment facility for house concerts, or any of the cultural things that we want to do. I'm going to speak just very briefly, specifically on the Department of Canadian Heritage. In order to access some of that money, you have to claim whether or not you're urban or rural. And if we're urban as we are right now, and we want to apply for the Department of Canadian Heritage for cultural programming at the hall, we're compared to, and we would fall under the same as West Vancouver and the other municipalities that are around the Lower Mainland. If we were rural, we would be able to access different pots of money. And so for me personally, because that is my background and my passion, and it also brings community together, rural designation is not something to, it's something to embrace, because there's a lot of advantage that I don't think has been explored. And so I absolutely support it. And I just want to go on record for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We have a Jerry Blackwell, I believe.
Mr. Blackwell, if you want to unmute, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that most of the comments I read on the draft look appropriate to me. I think there's areas to tighten up the language. I think a few things maybe reflect just where we are. I think you have adequate clean water currently, but you should stress that you don't necessarily expect to have that forever unless certain measures are taken. And I think, you know, the trails and whatnot, those are not assets. Those are attributes, especially when they're going on various private properties, public properties across various areas. And you don't take responsibility for the maintenance of them. And maybe some of them aren't even legal, who knows? But, you know, I don't disagree with their existence. I just don't think you should claim ownership unless you're prepared to embrace the ownership. I think my other comments are more attuned to, other than on page 10, when you really talk about long-term use and perhaps increasing density, et cetera, you should really weigh the pros and cons on sanitation services and also fire routes. Because I think that, you know, the regs have changed over the year in sanitation services significantly, especially septic fields. I went through and did a just quick count, and that's taken the position that, you know, things flow downhill. And just looking at your map attached to the policy, I counted 168 lots that would have very difficult access to service their septic field. So most of the lots in the village do not have a means to service their lot, and yet you're proposing to densify. I don't think it's a good idea unless you're prepared to deal with septic fields. Similarly with fire routes, do you really have adequate routes for people to rapidly deploy, especially low down or high up on the village, in the village, and set up a proper service? I think those are things that you could bring into this and perhaps lay the framework for future support from other government levels. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blackwell. Could you take your hand down? Anybody else? Thank you. Mr. Schneider, you can unmute. You have the floor.
No, I just want to think that I do not want densification. I don't really have much written up. We're against densification, and we're in favor of leaving the urban containment boundary. That's it.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call on anyone else who wishes to speak to please put your hand up. Mr. Reuters, you've turned your screen on, you've unmuted, and I think you're ready to go.
I am, yes. Good evening, everyone. I've appeared before you a couple of times on this matter. And tonight, I'd like to say first and foremost that I'd like to express my resounding support for the proposed amendment to our regional context statement. And I eagerly await and look forward to a rural designation for our village. I really want to commend all of council for taking this matter on and for doing so in a transparent and consultative way, and also for providing for an extensive period and means of communication and consultation thereby affording all of us to be heard. The conversations I've been part of within our community leave me in no doubt that we're headed in the right direction, and that the ties between our residents and council have been really strengthened by this process that we're engaged in here. The dyssynchrony that our regional context statement has for far too long experienced in relationship to our OCP will, I think, hereby be harmonized. And more importantly, that this amendment will bring our regional context statement into alignment with the rural vision that the vast majority of our residents have always had of this place that we live in. My compliments to you for engaging in this dialogue with us and for taking action. Thank you very much. Sorry, Marcus Reuter, 256 Stewart Road. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reuter. Again, I call on anyone who wishes to speak. Please either raise your hand or unmute. You don't have to put your camera on. If you're a Lions Bay villager, you're not a shy person, so I'm not used to silence in a council chamber like this with a large gallery. Again, I would ask that anybody who wishes to speak, and that'll be after Mr. Gansky, please come forward. This is a great opportunity for you.
Okay.
Mr. Gansky?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to kind of share my views. I've spoken before. I live up on Mountain Drive, and really just wanted to reiterate what we've already heard by and large, is that I support what council has proposed, and I think it is great to have had the opportunities to get the kind of public feedback on this topic that council has provided. And I'm very pleased with the process, and I think you guys are doing a very good job. So that's really essentially it. Don't want to repeat a lot of the rural pros and cons. I think everybody's heard them, and we like the way the village is as a very rural place. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gansky. Again, to my fellow villagers, don't be shy. This is a pretty big topic. So if you'd like to come forward, Councillor Barmare, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I thought just for the sake of clarification, in case callers or people participating aren't familiar with how to raise your hand in Zoom, there's a reaction button at the bottom and a little bar that reads raise your hand, and it shows that your hand is up on the screen, and you can kind of form a queue that way in case you're struggling with that interface.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barmare. We got, we'll go with the resident first. So Mr. Monster, you could unmute, please, and identify yourself. Perhaps I've scared you away. If you wish to speak, please unmute. I'm going to come back to you in a second. If it's a technological, there we are. You're good now.
Thank you. My name is Carmen Leeson, resident 261 Stewart Road. Again, I just wanted to express my support for the rural designation. Nothing more to add at the moment, but again, I have to reinstate what Marcus was saying earlier, that I do appreciate the time that's been taken and just hearing the residents, because it is vitally important. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leeson. Councillor Cunliffe.
I just was looking for a point of clarification. I know there has been some concern by residents about our TransLink status, and would we be putting our public transportation in jeopardy at all by changing our designation? I don't know if CAO De Jong, you can answer, Mayor McLaughlin.
I think I can. I'll have that confirmed with the CAO De Jong. It'll be a resounding no change.
Thank you.
CAO?
Yeah, I haven't spoken to anybody at TransLink. I believe you're basing your statement on information that was provided to you by senior staff, which is a reasonable thing to do. You know, we don't have the kind of transit facilities that are generally associated with an urban environment. We do have, you know, transit that comes to the community, does a loop and along the highway in and out and back to the West Vancouver area. So I don't think that it would be difficult to characterize our service as more or less a rural service as it is. Hopefully we can still improve upon it, increase the frequency and the service that's associated with our transit services. But I think it's fair to say that they could easily be characterized as rural.
Thank you very much, CAO. Again, back to my fellow villagers. I know you're not a shy lot. It's a great topic if you want to make a statement or seek any clarification. And I see Mr. Weary, you have your hand up. You're unmuted. You have the floor, Mr. Weary.
I'd like to thank council for taking this on. I'd like to thank all of those that have supported this endeavor. And I'd like to echo the comments, I think, of Mr. Gansky, that I, for one, feel that my feelings for council have been greatly improved because of the efforts that council has made to pursue this. And I guess it goes without saying that I am strongly in support of the move to remove ourselves from the urban containment boundary. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weary. Those of you who do read my articles that I write about once a month, I do see many, many new residents that are on the line, and this would be an opportunity if you wish to speak. Be happy to recognize you. Then we'll pause here for the gallery for a second, and I would ask staff if they have anything that they would like to add regarding any of the comments provided so far this evening.
Just a couple of things. One, there was a letter provided by Rose Dudley, which I think has a couple of typos between rural versus urban. I think her intent was to use the word rural, and urban slipped in there a few times. So just heads up about that. With respect to a couple of the comments from Ruth Simons, the one about the climate change impacts are hard to quantify was actually already in the regional context statement. It's not a new addition, but I do agree that it would be perhaps suitable to amend that to say the impacts have not yet been quantified. I think that's a small clarification that helps more than hinders. And the other thing that maybe I'll just raise at this point is in terms of mapping and land designations, which are within our own OCP map. We have a number of different designations for different types of lands, but this exercise was not about amending any of those designations or definitions. That's something that ought to be and will be part of a future review of the document. And but it was a sort of a rabbit hole that we didn't really want to go down in terms of this exercise, which is focused essentially on amending the regional context statement and treating the OCP itself as as espousing a rural vision of the community. I'm not sure that I agree that with Ms. Simon's comment about providing a bit of clarity with respect to the document that was referenced. That would be the draft 2014 Land Use Master Plan document, which is on our website and sits on our website at about 267 pages because it includes comments from residents during the process that was undergone, as well as sort of a preliminary background thing along with the sort of the draft plan. So there's a number of aspects to it, but it could be identified that way, I think. And I think that was it in terms of any clarifications or comments that I had about any of the written submissions that we received that I've seen at this point. I don't know if there's any more that have come in.
Thank you very much, CEO DeJohn. Back to our gallery, we'll continue there. I see a hand raised, and if the person who is IDPS 044, they can unmute. Again, you don't have to put your camera on if you don't wish to. Okay, we'll put you on hold for the time being. Is there anybody else who would like to speak at this time? No, thank you. Back to IDPS 044. If you'd like to unmute, we await your comments. Okay. All right. If there's anybody else that again would like to speak, please do so now. Just raise your hand or unmute. And again, if you feel shy, you don't have to turn your camera on.
I'm wondering if Carla may be able to assist with unmuting LDPS 044, or is that something that the participant would have to do themselves?
They would have to do that themselves.
Okay, thanks for clarifying, Carla.
All right. There appears to be a lull, and I think those who wish to speak have certainly had their opportunity. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for the first time? Mr. Ventura, and welcome to Lions Bay.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure for me to be here. My name is Carlos Ventura. I'm at 260 Stewart Road. We recently moved to Lions Bay, and we are excited to be here. And I find this opportunity to understand the discussions that are happening here are very useful for us. It's been a fast learning process for us to learn what's happening and this initiative, but in principle, my family and I will support the initiative, and I think it's a good move for the village. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share our views with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ventura. Is there anybody else who would like to speak for the first time? There being none, are there any further speakers? I'm asking this for the second time. Mr. Kennedy, if you could unmute, you have the floor. Mr. Kennedy, you have your hand raised. We'd like to hear what you have to say. If you would unmute, we'll do that. Okay, he's gone. I'm sensing that there is a lull in the proceedings and that those who have spoken have done so. And there doesn't appear to be a desire for anyone to speak a second time, although you're welcome to. So as a formality, Mr. Reuter, I'll stop what I'm saying and then we'll try again with Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, I just had a question. There was a mention of the bus service, and my recollection is that there was something mentioned in the FAQ about that, and I thought that perhaps Councillor Abbott had spoken to somebody at Metro about that. Is there any further information about the bus that can be provided? Because that is a question that has come up from time to time.
Councillor Abbott.
Other than the discussions we've had and CEO has just summarized, I don't have a direct quote from anyone at Metro who I specifically asked that question. We did discuss it in general with various people, and I haven't heard of anyone that said it would change, as the CEO described. But if you're asking me if I could quote someone from Metro, not specifically. Although I have no doubt that CEO described it accurately, and we have a rural bus service, and it's not going to change.
Okay, so our takeaway then is that our bus service will essentially remain the same and be unchanged and not affected by this RCS amendment.
I would say that's accurate.
Great.
I'll have that confirmed by the next council meeting, Mr. Reuter.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Kennedy, if you would like to speak, just unmute and then you'll have the floor. Okay, Mr. Kennedy, I sense we're going to be coming to the end of the meeting in the next 5 minutes or so. So this would be the chance if you need to take away and work on anything technical to come live. We look forward to hearing from you. Mr. Kennedy, you're still muted. If you could unmute. Mr. Kennedy, you're muted, sir.
I can only ask him to unmute.
Mr. Kennedy, I can see that you're speaking, but we're not hearing you because you're muted and we're unable to do it from our end.
No, if you look to your lower left of the screen, there should be a bar at the bottom with a little microphone that you would have to press. Oh, or it could be a connection issue, I'm not sure. No, sorry.
There's usually a little thing in the top right of his own screen, right? You can right click on it. No, the little dot, the top right of the screen.
I have it on my bottom left. It depends on how they have it configured. I don't know.
Okay.
Do we have a call-in number?
Or he could send an email before the close of the meeting, but I think that's going to happen pretty quick. So
yeah, Mr. Kennedy, we're going to give you a call-in number and you'll be live if that's fine with you. And what is that?
So the phone number is 778 907 2071.
Mr. Kennedy, what I would suggest is that you give us a phone call and you'll be live in conference here. And the number to call is 778 907-2071.
And then you would have to enter a meeting ID. And the meeting ID is 881-2277-5730.
Mr. Kennedy, we are not able to unmute you at our end. So the opportunity, if you wish to come forward, is one of two. I'll give you a phone number in the past if you could get a pen. Or alternatively, if you send us an email, you'll become part of the record on your statement. But if you're going to send an email, you're going to have to do it in the next 10 minutes or so.
1 minute, if nobody wants to speak. I think we're done.
Okay. All right. Mr. Kennedy, I wish we could hear what you have to say, but we're unable to connect. So again, the opportunity is if you could please drop us a quick email now. Are there any other speakers? And I'll be going through the procedure to close the meeting in a minute. We discussed it. There being nobody coming forward, we'll just go through the procedure one more time. Is there anybody who would like to speak for the first time? Please unmute now and come forward. There being nobody, Councillor Abbott.
Just conferring with the CAO on this bus that came up and casting our mind back. I think the one thing that we should make clear to residents understand is the urban containment boundary is not linked to TransLink's bus service. They don't look at the urban containment boundary. So from that point of view, there is no correlation. And that was confirmed with Ventura.
I'm on the board for the Mayor's Council for TransLink. I have no doubt that is the understanding. Quite frankly, it would take a provincial order for TransLink not to come to Lions Bay.
So there's no connection.
So, but I mean, I'm happy. I'm at the Mayor's Council on Thursday. We'll just deal with it with the executive director and the CAO, and then we'll report that back on council meeting on Tuesday.
Okay.
It appears maybe Mr. Kennedy is attempting to make a phone call right now. Should we give him a moment to see if the call comes through? 1 minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Bruce Kennedy here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy. We've got you live and we can hear you.
My phone is not working properly. Am I on record or what?
You're on record.
Okay, well, just anyway, what I really am upset about and concerned about with the entire changeover to urban and all that is that we do not allow homes to be built on various parcels of land throughout Lions Bay that look like, let's put it this way, and I'll make it simple, like Maple Ridge. And everybody's probably been there once. I've been there a few times years ago. We don't want rural housing. We do not want that. And one thing, Ron, I saw in your village update weeks ago was you're talking about that you and me have a large property, a large parcel. And I mean, we live across the street from you, but anyway, whatever. And oh, one day we're in our 70s and we are going to go have to, sell our house. We won't be able to take care of our property, which makes no sense. But anyway, you got 1,000 bags of, of stuff from China. A lot of work and a lot of money every month. But you know what? We all do. We all take care. I spend $500-600 a month, spring, summer, fall, every month, maintaining my property. It's just a part of it. They're all worth $2 million now. Every house. Houses are $2 million.
Mr. Kennedy, if I could bring you back.
Just wait, he's interrupting, just one, go ahead.
No, I just want to say one thing. Prices are going to go up another 20% on homes here in the next 5 years. Another 20%. The prices are ridiculous, but that's the way it is. Assessments are unbelievable. Thank God you want it low, but they're going to go up. But property taxes are going up, like everybody. House insurance, mine went up 25% for no reason. $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year.
Mr. Kennedy, if I could get you focused on the difference between urban and rural, and we'll let you close off.
He's muted you.
Being built here with crappy excavation, and we're on a hill. You can't let.
All right. I think we've lost you too, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you very much, sir, for the efforts that you did to come in. Back to this again. We'll just make sure everybody has a last chance to speak. Again, please come forward. I'll go through the procedure to close the meeting. If you've not come forward to speak for the first time, please do so now. Mr. Senko, if you could unmute, you have the floor.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Senko, we've got you camera and voice. You have the floor.
Hi there, my name is Greg Senko. I actually grew up at 145 Ocean View Road, and we don't live in the village right now, but we are looking to move back to the village. And are wondering how this change from urban to rural will affect density and the opportunity for increased density within the village, such as carriage homes or guest suites or guest houses.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senko. I think in what I've written to the public is that there is a demand for transitional housing, first-time home buyer, downsizing, a variety of houses. And I know from what staff advise that several times a week, villagers come to the counter asking what is a procedure to do carriage homes because they want their children near them. And that when the time comes, they may move from the large house to the carriage house. And I know that is happening in a few situations in the village already. I think it would be fair to say that there is a need for this. I think that what the community will be embarking on at the end of this year, next year, is the official community plan, which I expect will be initiated then and be starting by that time. The community will reinforce what the type of housing and the density that the village may have. I would, I know it's unusual, but I think unless one of my counselors has got a different concept, this is not kind of a serving issue, and I'm getting glared at by the CAO that may be going off the grid here.
Yeah, this is a public hearing, and mayor and council are here to hear comments, and you have some good questions, sir. I think that the mayor alluded to the fact that these are things that need to be fleshed out in terms of the future vision of the community. And the OCP, there are some things that are in place in the zoning bylaw, but I think that the question of what does rural development look like for the future of Lions Bay is something that has yet to be determined. And that's really where the community needs to go next after this process is done. But this isn't, unfortunately, the time or place to get into that this evening in the context of a public hearing. Sorry.
Okay, I was just looking in the document. It says strategy 1.1 is to attempt to densify housing within the village. So is that going to continue as part of a rural area?
Yeah, the sections of the OCP 1 through 5 and 7 through 10 are not changing, other than there's an occurrence of the word semi-rural, which will now be rural. Other than that, the only part of the OCP that's changing or is proposed to change is the regional context statement, which is found in section 6.0. And the regional context statement is something that is unto itself, which is intended to show how the OCP and the principles and visions and goals of the OCP are aligned and consistent with the goals and visions expressed in the regional growth strategy of Metro Vancouver. So the exercise that we're embarked upon at this point in time is to make changes to the regional context statement to better align what the vision of the OCP is in relationship to the regional growth strategy, because there is a sense that whereas the current regional context statement identifies more or less urban contexts, it's clear that from the recent public consultation that Lions Bayers consider themselves to live in a rural community, and therefore the changes are intended to identify the rural lens upon which or through which one views our OCP. And then what does that mean in terms of how it relates to the regional growth strategy? Well, the regional growth strategy indicates that we're urban. And so the request will be following this exercise, assuming it gets to third reading and passes third reading, to request Metro Vancouver to amend the regional growth strategy so that it shows Lions Bay as rural and not, and as rural, we would not be within the urban containment band. In terms of future development and what does that look like, as I said, that's something yet to be fleshed out for the village to go through that exercise of clarifying what does rural development look like, what forms of housing are going to be acceptable, what's the path forward for the village, given many of the different considerations that will come into play in that much wider discussion. So,
okay, so the projections that are there are still to be determined what is going to cause that growth.
Yeah, we're not really amending the OCP, we're amending the regional context statement at this point. And future consideration of the OCP will be something that is undertaken down the road here.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senko. Councillor Barmere?
Yeah, I just wanted to, and maybe I'm oversimplifying the ask of Gregory Senko, but the current bylaws already allow for every single family home to either add a suite or a standalone cottage. So that is already there. And so that's where some of that growth could come from.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barmere. Okay, To the gallery and my colleagues, since we are winding down here. So if there's another speaker who would like to speak for the first time, please come forward now. I'm going to make a call for speakers for a second time. Please come forward now. I'm going to ask for additional speakers for a third and final time. Please raise your hand or unmute and come forward now. Seeing and hearing none, I declare that the public hearing is closed, and I'd like to thank everyone for attending and providing their comments. Again, just as a reminder from part of my earlier preamble, council may not receive any additional information, written or verbal, after this meeting. Thank you all very much for your participation, and everybody have a pleasant evening. Goodbye for now.